Still a little bit finishing. Okay, this film shows the 2640 Hustler 4-color perfector press that was designed and built at Dahlgren Manufacturing Company in the late 60s, early 70s. And it was about a 10-man project. I was one of the designers on it. I did the inking system, and others did the drive system. Others did the feeder cam, the feeder assembly, and the delivery. And this was before computers. And this thing, the uniqueness of this was a sheet-fed press that printed both sides of the sheet. And in order to do that, the gripper bars that transport the sheet from the feeder to the delivery had to go right through a cutout in the cylinders. And it had a steel band. Okay. Anyway, it had a steel band on both sides that caused the unit to move. You can see one on the right there is one of the bands with a hole in it, and it indexed on pins that was in the wheels in order to keep it in time. But things being what they are, you could not make it dead on. And it was years before we finally had an engineer come in there that knew a little bit about the beginnings of computers, and he tied a unit on there to index one time every time the gripper bars went all the way around. And there was 27 gripper bars on the band, and it would speed up or slow down by tension in order to get it back into time. In today's technology, we'd have one on every gripper bar, and this thing would be reality. But this was a real feat for a company with about 100 employees to design, build, and demonstrate this thing. And this side shows the drive bars, and you're going to be in motion in just a moment. Now, this was the very most unique part of the press, but it's kind of like the bars on one of these old railroads that drove the drive wheels. Well, we tried to talk Mr. Dahlgren out of this, but he wanted to try it, and we tried it, and it failed. But we spent about a year screwing around with this thing, with this idea, and the problem is you can't balance it. Those big gray things on there is an attempt to balance it, but you can't balance it because the laws of physics. And we tried every way known to man, but you wind this thing up about 10,000 impressions per hour, and it was vibrating to the extent that it would interrupt the printing. So, bearing that in mind, right now we're just jogging the press slowly so you can see how it operates, and then we're going to speed it up. Now, this was before we moved to our new location on Manor Way in Dallas, and we never did print at where the press is at this point here. We did transport paper to it that you're going to see here in just a couple of minutes. And once again, this is the bands, and look at all the gripper bars. There's 27 of them on that band, and that band was welded together on site. It's the only way we could do it. You can't build a joint. It had to be electronically beam welded in the press. And this will give you an idea here in just a minute how the gripper bars go right through the cylinder that you will see. See the big cutouts in the cylinder? And that allows the gripper bar, when it arrives, to go right through the cylinder, and it'll have the sheet on it in a few minutes. And here we go, showing that choo-choo bar motion, if you want to call it that we had. We tried this and ran this for about a year or so, before we convinced him to pull all this out and go to right angle drive, which we eventually did. It was just an amazing feat that we got this thing to do this. And boy, if you think that wasn't an attention getter. And the bearings on the cylinders are sleeve bearings with about 3,000 to 4,000 maximum clearance on all the printing cylinders. Okay, here we are, and at least transporting sheets through it. And the feeder cam showing it, a portion of that here in a minute. So just for a bunch of old local yokels around here that had a little bit of sense on mechanics, we were able to build this thing. And my contribution was mostly in there, those little yellow gearboxes or the vibrators. And that's a gearbox casting. And we tied those together. And the uniqueness of this press is you could not ghost it. For those who know what ghosting is, you'll understand. But isn't this unique, seeing those gripper bars go right on through that cylinder like that? Amazing. Of course, you had a one-shot deal. Everything had to be at the right time to do that, the right cutout to make it happen, which it was. And those gripper bars were 48-inch, plus or minus just almost 2 or 3 thousandths, and that's why it had to be so close in order to keep this thing in register. Now it's really, that's it.